Okay, so this morning, thank you for joining the call. Apologies for the issues at the beginning. We do have the chat window that some people have been able to use already. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to add the questions to the chat box, and we will pick them up as we at the end of the presentation. The presentation is recorded and it will be made available after the webinar. So today we're going to be dealing with Stripe and pending payments, quickly going over the benefits of using Stripe, workflows, auto actions, then showing you how to set up Stripe and the reporting. So quick run through of the benefits of using Stripe. It's a fully integrated payment gateway with BES24. And once you have it set up, you can actually use the automated payments and be able to use the refundable security deposits. It's also possible to manually collect and refund payments within each of the bookings. You have the benefit of if Booking.com, Expedia or Agoda, if you use those channels and they send virtual cards, then we can actually auto process them within Stripe. And the Stripe connection is also has the consideration for the 3D secure authentication. So with Stripe and the setup, you can actually have different Stripe accounts for each property within BES24. You can select if the payment should be automatically collected or manually collected. The payments are managed by Stripe and reported back to BES24. Again, the virtual cards will actually be processed and you can see that within the bookings. And you can also collect credit cards, or if you have credit cards delivered by the other channels, you can set up the auto actions to collect the pending payments via them. And it's also possible to refund and release any authorizations for funds for the security deposits. So today we're going to be covering 4 different scenarios. Then the first one will be for direct bookings. Then we'll go on to the channels, capture the security deposits, and also manually charge and release payments. So the first one is the direct bookings. And here, effectively, we have 5 steps. So if you have a payment, they want to collect the payment from your booking page, then you set up and adjust your booking rule. And this allows, we have 2 options here, deposit 1 and deposit 2. And I will take you into the system in a minute and let you see how we actually process these. But this is just to let you see the 5 steps if you're going through from a booking page. So you set up the booking rule. And this you can set up for, as I say, deposit collection 1 or 2. You can manage this from operating whether it's a normal booking, a near-term booking, exceptional period booking, and this allows you to manage for high and low season or even last minute and normal type bookings. You can activate the deposit collection, and this can either be full collection or just a deposit partial payment. And again, you can do that for normal or near-term bookings. It's also possible, and it's purely optional, to set up payment rules. So you can do this for refundable or non-refundable security deposits, and also to stop payment being collected for cancelled bookings. You can create auto actions, and you'll see some of the auto actions that's possible. So to either collect the balance before the guest has arrived, authorize a refundable security deposit. And if you have a situation where you're in an area for the 3D secure payments, then you can actually send payment requests to the guests via the auto actions. And then we'll also connect Stripe. So for channel bookings, steps are pretty much the same. Although for channel payments, then you can auto process the virtual cards, which we will see, and I'll show you how you can do that. Again, the payment rules are optional. We'll see the create the auto actions and then also connect to Stripe. And then for the payment requests, again, this is will create auto actions and then connect to Stripe. And we will also cover some of the manual capture and release options as well in the system. So that's just a very quick run through of the slides and the presentation, just so that we can see the different steps that we need to go through. And then we'll go to the control panel within BEDS 24. So when you want to set up the actual process for your Stripe, for the actual booking page, when you go into BEDS 24 and you go to properties and then booking rules, you would set up your rules with regards to how you want to process normal bookings, near-term bookings, and we also have the exceptional period. So within the booking type here, you can actually select the type of booking type that you want. And typically, if you're using Stripe, then you would use either confirmed with deposit collection 1 or confirmed with deposit collection 2. You can do the same for near-term bookings. And here you can actually select what near-term means to you. So 7 days in advance. And you can also have a different type for if you have an exceptional period throughout your dates. Once you've set up the booking rules, and this applies for your booking page, then you can actually go and you can set up the payment collection. And this you would find under payments and then payment collection. And here you can decide for deposit payment 1 or deposit payment 2. And here, as you can see, we can actually specify a percentage or a fixed amount. And the other section here to think about is the non-payment booking status. So if you have a guest that comes to your booking page, comes through the details, you can select whether if they make a payment or not. So if it's non-payment, you can say that the booking is set to cancelled, or you can actually change it and say that the booking is request. And at that stage, if you decide that it's request, then you can follow up, because the request booking will actually be in the system and it allows you to follow up if you decide to. You also have the options here to add a payment header, payment request header, and also the confirmation, and these will show on the payment booking page. There's also just another, this again is optional, and this is in the payment rules. And this is something that's been set up in so that you can manage, for the sake here, for cancelled type bookings. So if you have a booking that comes through and there's a pending payment being added to the actual booking, you can set it up so that if the status actually becomes cancelled, then we can prevent the auto payment being collected, the pending payment, being collected, and you can set the pending payment to manual if the booking is actually set to cancelled status. There are other statuses you can see, but this is an optional thing. You don't need to use this, but it's quite handy if you want to set up for cancel payments. And it is the one for security deposits. If you don't want to collect the actual payment, but you want to be able to authorize a payment, then this is the action. You would set up an action and have capture equals no for any of the payment rules. If you go to Stripe, this is the, once you go into payment gateways, you have the Stripe button. Now, there's 2 ways to connect to Stripe, but when you want to use pending payments, then you actually want to use the connected. There's a button here that says connect to Stripe, and this is the button that you want to use when you actually need to use pending payments. If you use the keys here, the secret keys, it's not possible to process pending payments using these secret keys. And once you've actually connected with this button, click here to connect to Stripe. It will actually take you to the Stripe page. And then you log in with your Stripe account. And this is by property. So if you have multiple Stripe accounts, say 4 different owners, then you can actually connect one property to one Stripe account, or you can actually connect all of your properties to the same Stripe account. It's your choice. There is no restriction with this. And once you've actually connected your property to Stripe, you will actually see this situation here, and you can connect or you can disconnect. And then to actually use Stripe, you have to set a priority here. And if you use multiple payment gateways, you can select a different priority, which will show on the payment page. It will show the different which one is available first or lower down. And in order to be able to process the pending payments, you have to change Stripe to yes. You have to save all cards to Stripe. Otherwise, you won't be able to auto process the payments. Okay, so to be able to set up auto actions, then you go to the guest management page and then down onto auto actions. And here within BES24, you can set up multiple auto actions. They can be by property or they can be across all properties. But you would create a new action here, and then you can set the rules for your pending payments. And the difference with your pending payments and being able to collect, so on the booking page, if you set up your rules, sorry, I'll just go back to the payment collection. If you set here that you want to collect 10% or you want to collect 30% at the time of the booking, this is what will be used for direct bookings. So when a guest makes a booking through your booking page and they come to the payment page, they will then be requested to make a payment of 30%. You also have the opportunity for the payment to be able to be 100%. So again, this is where you can use the different options, whether it be near-term bookings or normal bookings, or if you only want to be able to collect 100% at all times whenever a guest makes a booking, then you can select the deposit to in the booking rules, which is right at the very beginning here, where you can actually set the normal bookings. So we could actually say here that normal bookings, we're going to collect 30%, and near-term bookings, we say is 6 days, and we can say that this is actually going to be the deposit to, which will be 100%. So we can change that back to 30. We just click save. So when a guest comes to the booking page, they will be requested for normal bookings to pay 30% and for near-term bookings 100%. So if you have a situation where you have the guest has paid the 30%, then you can set up an auto action to be able to collect the balance, which would be the 70%. And you have the options here within the auto action to be able to decide what the trigger event is. So the trigger event, you can have booking, you can say booking, but not after check-in, check-in and check-out. Typically, this auto action here, to be able to add a pending payment to a booking, you would add it in the invoice tab. And here you have the different types where you have the payment type, and we have an arrangement here of different options. So you can collect the percent of the balance. We've recently just added new ones where it's the percent of the group balance. You can have a fixed amount, which you can use for the security deposits, one night. So this is actually your choice here. You can have a description, you can add a status, and if it's a percent of the balance due, if you enter 100, then that will be 100% of the outstanding balance. You can also select here the payment due, date, and time. So if this was to be, if this one is for check-in, so you already have a normal booking, the guest already paid 30%, and you want to have 100% of the outstanding balance, and this is due to be collected 14 days before check-in. Again, there's a range of options here: check-in, book date, and also trigger date. You can set the trigger, and the trigger date is based on the selection that you have in the trigger tab. Now, it is possible to add, and it's your choice, the pending payment to the booking at the time when the booking was created. And this would be, you would just select booking, and then you can say the day of the booking. The one to consider there is if you, when you have your bookings received, if you have the option that you allow modifications to the booking, if the pending payment has already been added to the booking, it is not updated if the price of the booking has changed. So if you add the pending payment to the booking at the time the booking was created, and then there's modifications, you will have to manually modify the pending payment. It will not automatically recalculate. So it's a good idea to use the check-in here as the trigger event to add the pending payment to the booking, and then trigger the time that you want that to be added to the booking. And then, as you see here, I have minus 15 days, and the payment due is minus 14 days. So the pending payment will be added the day before it's due to be collected. So there's various options you can use to be able to set these up. And this allows you, based on your actual processing for your business, your workflow, to be able to refine these that suits yourself. You can also use the auto action to send a message to the guest, as you do for every other auto action. And it's also possible to add either a flag to the booking when this auto action has triggered to show that the pending payment's been added. And you can also add the booking info code. Again, these are your choice. I have a few other ones here that are set up just so that we can show different types that can be set. The one for the security deposit. This one, again, depending on your trigger, it can be at booking. It can, if your security deposit is a fixed value, then you can set, again, you can select the booking plus 1 day, or you can select check-in, sorry. Again, it's down to your workflow process. And then in the invoice tab, here, this is where you would typically use the fixed amount. You would say that it was a security deposit. It was refundable. You select this. In this instance, this is actually 300 euros or pounds, whatever your currency is. And as I earlier showed you the security deposit, the payment rule, we created one that had security deposit. And at that, the payment due time here is check-in, and the payment rule is used in this instance, security deposit, because the capture equals no, which therefore indicates that it's a refundable capture, an authorization on the card. It's not an actual collection, therefore you don't need to do a refund. And the other ones here that I have is being able to request the credit card details from the guest. this typically would be used if you had a scenario where you have virtual cards from Booking.com and Expedia. You can't charge the security deposit to the virtual card, so you would need the guest's credit card, and this is when you would request the guest's credit card, and you can send a message to the guest at this point asking them for their credit card to do with the security deposit. And you can actually add into the text here within the Stripe wiki page. We have a number of options that you can use. So this one is specifically asking for the credit card details of the guest. Here you can see that it has ST, which is Stripe, and then Pay NA, which there is actually no payment to be made. Sorry, that's just so you can see here. If it says %G ST, that's the Stripe gateway. So therefore, you're actually managing only one payment gateway, and you're saying that payment is null, and this means that the credit card details will actually be stored in Stripe against the booking ID of the guest, but there will be actually no payment collected at this point. But you're asking for the payment credit card details, and then within the invoice tab, again, you add the pending payment to the booking, again with the fixed amount, refundable, the security deposit, and then you want it to be collected at check-in. There is restrictions from the credit card companies on how long the refundable authorization amount can be held within Stripe. Typically, it's 7 days. Some of the other types of credit cards have other periods, different periods, depending on the credit card. And you can find the specific details within the wiki page. MasterCard is 30 days, American Express 7 days, but typically they are 7 days. It's on exception to be a bit longer than that. Okay, so the process for creating the auto actions and adding the different types of pending payments is very similar, irrespective of whether you're using the booking page to collect the payments or if you actually have payments coming in from the channels. If you have a payment coming in from a channel, for instance, Booking.com, and they send the virtual card, Booking.com, Expedia and Agoda, we have the option to be able to auto-process a pending credit card, a virtual credit card that comes in from the channel. And in this instance, you would see here the auto-processing. So you go to Channel Manager and then to Booking.com. And for your property, once you've set up the details, you can say here, payment processing. And then you would just say yes. And if you've set up the rule for your payment rule that says you don't want to be able to collect, then you can say cancelled bookings. And that way for Booking.com, if the booking is cancelled, then it automatically will be, the pending payment will be stopped. We have that option for, as I said, for Expedia and also for Agoda. And you can set them up within here. If you don't receive virtual credit cards from these channels or from your other channels, because there is the opportunity to collect the credit card, if the channel collects the credit card and sends it to Beds24 with the booking, then as long as within the payment set up for Stripe that you have, if you have said here, save all cards to Stripe, then that card will automatically be sent to Stripe and you will have the opportunity to collect the payment. That can be done via the pending payment, or it can actually be done manually within the booking. So we've got a couple of bookings here. So here you can see that we do, although this one has failed, it's just because it's a test booking. You can see here that there was a pending payment added to the booking. You will see a message here if it's failed, and there will also be an info code added to the info the tab of the booking. You can see here that the card was actually sent to Stripe, and you will receive booking information codes here on the info tab of the booking to let you see whether the card has been sent to Stripe, whether there's actually been a failure. If it's been processed, you will also see the payment process here. If it's a virtual card and it was a booking.com booking, there is another booking info code, which is called Booking Virt card for virtual card. And you would see this listed here instead of Booking.com card. And you would see that that was also sent to Stripe. For the virtual cards, they add some text that would actually tell you the date and the time that the card should be processed or can be processed. And if you have set it up so that it will be auto-processed, the pending payment will be added into the charges and payments tab of the booking with the date and time that the payment can be collected. And it will be auto-processed and collected at that point in time via the pending payment. Here, as you say, if you hover over the date, you can actually see the date and time that the payment is due to be collected. And if you click on the three dots here, you can actually set whether this auto pending payment can be set to manual, it can be set to delete. You can actually say that you want to charge it now, or you can mark it as paid. And you have the opportunity of changing the rules. So if you want to charge now, it should connect to, because it's the auto one. If you want to make a manual payment, you can click Stripe. It will come up with the details here, and you can then enter the value that you want to be able to collect. You want to collect it. So if you actually want to collect the payment, you would say on yes. But this is also another way that if the guest's credit card is already at Stripe, then you can actually collect a security deposit, and you would set the capture to no, and then you would click charge now with the value charge now, and then that would go off to Stripe, and this would have a Stripe authorization for the security deposit. It would hold it for 7 days, and you can see it would actually record another value here in the booking info tab with Stripe authorize and the value that was there. Once a payment has actually been made, and you can see the details on this section of the booking and the charges and payments, you would actually see a list of the payments, the authorizations within this particular booking. And you would then have the opportunity to refund or release if it was actually a payment authorization for the security deposit. It's not possible to be able to release the auto release is possible. That Stripe will manage that after a period of time, as I say, typically 7 days. But for a refund, it's not possible to automate refunds. You would need to make a manual refund when you actually open up the pending payments section here. As I say, this one hasn't been paid, so you don't see the details, but there is a screen that you would see the payments and the release options if you had actually made and charged a booking at Stripe. So that's a quick run through of the main auto actions with regards to being able to forward your bookings with either from the booking page or from your channels.
Leslie,
Yes.
Is it possible to go through? Sometimes we get guests calling up and we've sent them a link to make payment, but they're not too good with technology. Can you just go through how you would take card details over the phone on that page? Because I'm not entirely sure. When it comes to card notes, what's should you be populating that with? Is that the postcode of the card that the card's registered to? Just further down on that page. So yeah, that looks different to ours.
Yeah, this is actually, this is if you were storing the card within BES24.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually here, this customer, we already have a card. The customer has already been created at Stripe.
Right, okay.
So the card is already in Stripe.
Okay, can you simulate someone calling up to check pricing and availability, and then you take the reservation over the phone, and then you want to take the card, if it's a near-term booking, you want to take payment there and then? Do you populate the card details in the in that window there?
Yes.
But we've had there's usually a card note on in there, and I've always wondered what we're supposed to populate that box with.
That can be.
Mark, sorry to interrupt. We'll have questions and answers when Leslie is finished. Just let Leslie go through the presentation, yeah, and everyone just let Leslie continue, and we'll cover your questions at the end. I've seen your question, Mark, and we'll pick it up. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So if we have this situation where you have, if you're in a situation where if you want to send a payment request to the guest so that they can actually make a payment directly through Stripe, and this can be the situation where you are in the EU, where the guest or you are in the EU and the EU banks are now requiring the 3D secure payments, then there is the option that you can send pending payments to the guest to ask them to actually make the payment directly. And in this situation, we can actually have these ones, as I say, where it's the 3D secure. And again, that would be within the messaging tab. And you can send the link. If it's actually the plain text, you could send them the whole link here. It will give them the link to the actual booking. It will be through Stripe, and then you can set whether they actually pay a percentage of the booking or whether it's a fixed amount that can be set up here. And if you are using the HTML message, then we have a few other options within the actual wiki page that shows you how to set these up, which is we've got this template variable called paylink, and you do have the option to be able to add percentages or a fixed amount to that, so that when the guest clicks on this link, it will actually effectively give them the same details as here, and they will be able to make the payment, because they will be what they call at the moment present, and the guest will actually be able to be taken directly to the Stripe payment page and will be able to make the payment themselves. You will see the details in the booking. It will show in the charges and payments page, and the credit card detail will be in Stripe, but the guest will have made the payment directly. And again, you can have, so that one's for the 30% deposit. And then you can also send them a payment request for the outstanding balance. And this ideally, you should also use for, based on the question that Mark asked, to actually be able to send this directly to the guest. So you could trigger this from within a booking and send the payment link to the guest so the guest can actually make the payment themselves. You don't need to take their card over the telephone, but you can send them an automated email, or you can trigger it manually from within the booking and send them the payment link so that the guest can actually make the payment directly. And just very quickly, from a reporting point of view, within the bookings, you can actually see we have a report, sorry, that says pending payments, and you can actually show which pending payments you have for your bookings. So if there's one that's already on the booking, then you can see what the status is. You can decide to do something about it. It gives you a quick click and you can manage the payment if required. So as I say, the pending payment report's there. You also have the opportunity, obviously, to create a custom report for your pending payments, but this is one that's there. If there's actually a pending payment on a booking, then you will actually see the details there. Okay, so from the presentation perspective, that's where we are. We'll cut over now to questions. I'm guessing that we've got quite a few questions. Annette is on the call with me, and obviously she's going to be helping with the questions. If we have any, we want to open up for questions now, then I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leslie, for the presentation. Yeah, it's a very comprehensive topic, but I think you've really managed to cover all the different aspects. And there have been a lot of questions, which I've tried to answer during the chat. And now I'm just going through them, and I'm just going to repeat for everyone, and also for Leslie, maybe you want to jump in to my replies. So what the questions were. So there was a question about the booking rules, and the booking rules are only for booking page bookings. I mean, that's maybe important to repeat. The booking rules will not apply to any bookings from OTAs, and they will also not necessarily apply to bookings you take manually over the phone or so. For these bookings, you're always free to allow whatever you want and override any rules you might have set.
You can also manage, if need be, if you wanted to send the auto actions. In the last section that I showed you there, you can set a percentage. So again, if you wanted to send a payment request to the guest, then you can specify within that auto action that you want them to pay 30% or 25% or 10% or 100%. That's where you can add or manage the different types of collections that you want, if it happens to be a direct booking but over the telephone. So it allows you to change the rules there if you just happen to have a quick one that you want to deal with separately.
There was a question about the Stripe keys. So the Stripe keys are depreciated. So please don't use the Stripe keys. The fields are still there, but they're really only used for testing. For the test mode, you enter the keys, but once you're live, remove the keys and you only use the button. So that was one question. And there was a question about how to prevent fraud, chargeback, etc. So Stripe is taking care of the security. So if the payment needs to be 3D secured, Stripe will automatically take care of this. And there are settings in your Stripe account under Radar where you can set your security and other preferences. So have a look there and double check that you've chosen the options you want to, but when it comes to 3D secure, that's something that Stripe will take care of automatically. There was one question also about booking page bookings. When the guest does not proceed with the payment, the bookings, depending on your setting, they're set to canceled. And you can see that these canceled bookings are bookings from the booking page by the referrer. By default, booking page bookings have the referrer booking page, no, direct, but you might have set your own referrer, so you look for that referrer. And it's normally bookings that were canceled the same day they were made. So it's then just a matter of minutes. That's how you can detect them. Then there were some questions about the locking of payments. So the locking, by default, it's now 30 days. Just let me clarify this. We do have a special arrangement with Stripe where we can allow 30 days for most situations. There are a few exceptions. One exception being, I think it was Amex, Leslie, American Express, and also for certain cards in Japan or other locations, there might be limitations, but as a rule of thumb, it's 30 days now.
Yeah, I think American Express, it's just the 7 days. Yeah,
I think it's just American Express and some regional, but I believe it's mainly Japan. So then there was the question, Jonathan wants to collect differently depending on the length of stay. And that's like with the normal rules, that's not really achievable, but what you could do in this case is use a payment requests. And for a payment request, you can set the length of stay in the auto action.
yeah.
And then there was also the question on, sorry, I forgot that, about the holding, where you can see for how long it's held, because it might be different. It might be 7 days, it might be 30 days. And you see that on the info code. We automatically add an info code, and there is an info item with a description that will show you the amount and the currency, and also for how long the payment is held. Martin was asking, is it possible to trigger access codes for remote log only when a payment has been made? So what you could do is you could set the bookings to request until a payment is made. And if you do that and you want to block the room, check your settings for request bookings, and booking rules covers this. And then the booking will only sent to remote log, and codes will only be issued after the payment is made. When the payment is made, then you can change the status of the booking to confirmed, and only then the booking will send to remote log. There is one question from Soren. If a payment link is set capture 0-1, will that work regardless the option from Stripe card collect equals yes?
So the card has to be in Stripe in order to be able to set the capture to be yes or to be 0 or 1. So if the card is not either being sent with the payment link, or the card is not in Stripe already, then we won't be able to capture to have the authorize. So when you send a payment link, it does not use the rules, again, as Annette had explained at the beginning. So the rules on your payment collection page are only, and also on Stripe, sorry, are only used when the guest actually uses the payment page. If you send the guest the payment link, then they're directed straight to Stripe to make that payment.
There is a question from Nabil. How can I take security deposit when the guest use a virtual card?
So I covered that one as well, where you would actually need to send an auto action to the guest to request their actual credit card details. You cannot take a security deposit from a channel virtual card.
Yeah. Or what you can do alternatively is send a payment request.
Yes, yeah, send a payment.
That's another option. But for virtual cards, the virtual card has a certain amount, which is the amount, for example, booking.com charge the guest for the booking. So the virtual card only has this amount, and you can't charge it for anything else because there are no more funds than this on the card. Then there is a question from Mark. How would you recommend planning your detailed workflows before creating all your auto actions and pending payments?
So from my advice would be that you write down each of the different types of booking types that you receive. So if you have payments through your booking page and takes 30%, then what's the rule that you want to be able to take the balance? Is it 2 days before check-in? Is it 14 days? Then you can set up the auto action for that. Also the same if how you collect from the channels. Do you have the opportunity for virtual cards? Do the channels make the payments direct to you? And then you can either have an individual workflow and set up the auto actions specifically for channels or for your booking page, or if you can consolidate them, then within the trigger tab of the booking, you can select the booking source. So you have the opportunity to say whether it's only for direct bookings or only for booking.com and only Expedia or Agoda or the different types. So you have that opportunity. And my advice would be write it down, check your workflows, see if you can consolidate them. If not, then set up the booking rules and also the auto actions to be able to collect the payments, add the pending payment to the booking, and or send a payment request directly to the guest to allow them to make the payment themselves.
Thank you, Leslie. There is a question from Alexandra about the booking system. Does Bet24 getting a more friendly booking system for the guest? Our booking engine is fully customizable, so you might want to look at the customization options. You can even apply your own CSS styles and arrange all the elements on the booking page however you want. Just have a look at the documentation for detailed instructions. Then there is one question. I'm not really sure how to interpret this. I use Stripe for Bet24 deposit security. I use my own system. I don't really understand what you mean by use my own system. Vincent, maybe you can clarify this. Does the deposit amount, if it's capture equals no in the guest, show in the guest bank statement? I don't know what the credit card, that would depend on the credit cards company, how they do it. If anybody knows the answer, maybe you can add it to the chat. Maybe you can set that in Stripe, but I'm not sure. How can I benefit for the 30 days deposit security instead of the normal 7 days? Can I send an email to Stripe to tell them to do that for my account? Vincent, that's automatic. So the 30 days is the rule of thumb for all Bets24 customers. There are no custom settings per account. It's just that some card companies apply a different rule, like American Express. And if you're in Japan, you might also, but I don't believe you are, you might have a different rule. How do I send a payment link automatically because my messages in auto action do not work? If your auto actions, if you set your auto actions to auto and they do not send, then most likely your outgoing email is not working. So go to account, outgoing email, and check your settings for outgoing email. There is a button where you can send a test email, and if that fails, then something's wrong with your setup. No, we can't make a demonstration here. Sorry, that's sort of beyond the scope of this webinar. If you need help with this, just start a support ticket. But first, please go to the setting and make a test yourself. Do you plan to support more Stripe payment methods? For example, GiroPay, SEPA? Yes, we do. That's something we have on our development roadmap, and we'll hope we can get to that within the next couple of months. To whom can I send an email to activate the 30 days? I've just covered this. The 30 days, there are the defaults for all Bets24 customers. For any refunds, Stripe retain the fees. Are we legally allowed to charge these costs to guests if or when they cancel? That depends on where you are. So you will need to check this locally if you can do this, because these regulations vary from country to country, what you can charge a guest and what not. So then we're running out of time. There are just two things that I would like to cover. One thing is a request to show how to capture the remaining balance. Maybe Leslie, I think you covered this, maybe you can repeat it. And the other one was the question from Mark, how to process a credit card, or how to add a credit card to a booking when a guest phones you up. So these are the two last things we will cover. And while Leslie is preparing for these questions, this webinar is being recorded, and the recorded will be added to the webinar's help page later today. I put a link to the wiki page into the chat, so just scroll up in the chat for the link, or just search the documentation, the start page, or any other page of the wiki for the word webinar, and you will get to the page.
Okay, thanks, Annette. Can you see I've shared the page again?
We can see.
Yeah. So you have two options here for to be able to collect the outstanding balance. If the guest's credit card is already at Stripe and you don't have the situation with the 3D secure payment, then if the card is already at Stripe and you know that the details are there, you can add a pending payment to the booking for the outstanding balance. This was one of the auto actions that I showed, which was, as I say, you can either use check-in or you can use booking, and this will trigger and add the pending payment to the booking. The pending payment you set up within the invoice tab of the auto action, and here you would say the percentage of the balance due, outstanding balance 100, and again determine when you want to collect this amount. So that's if the credit card of the guest is already at Stripe. If the credit card is not there, or you have to comply with the 3D requirement for the outstanding balance, then you just send a payment again with the rules, check in minus 14 days or whatever, minus 15 days. And then in the message tab of the actual auto action, here is where you would send the payment link to the guest. And you can, if it's a plain text, then you enter the full details. And if it's going through HTML, so it's going to an email, then you can use the pay link option, which is one of the template variables. And this will actually take the outstanding 100% of the outstanding balance. You can send that to the guest and they can make the payment directly. So hopefully that covers that point. And then the other one, which is the booking. Sorry, I'm just checking these bookings because we've got a couple of test bookings here. Here you can add the card details to the actual booking. And then once you've added the details, you should be able to, if you're already connected to Stripe, you should have a button that says send to Stripe. And the details would actually send directly to Stripe and create the customer details within Stripe. Okay. We'll get any other quick question before we close down.
Okay, Mark is asking, the invoice page looks different to mine. I don't get the options for the CVC. That's actually a setting, Mark. You can set that if you want to collect the CVC or not in
I think that's an okay.
Payment collection under credit cards. You need to set that you want to have the CVC. Yeah.
Yep.
This is showing it.
So you would set the details here, require the credit card for security, and then you would set that to yes.
So Mark's asking, taking a payment over the phone, we don't need to collect the postcode.
It depends on the security that's been set at Stripe. And this is also linked with the 3D secure payment settings. So I think Stripe typically does collect, that's one of their additional security checks is the postcode. But if you don't want that to be part of it, then go into your Stripe account and set the security rules within Stripe.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation and all your questions. And yeah, thank you very much, Leslie, for putting this webinar together and hopefully giving everyone a bit of an idea on what they can do. And
I'm sure we'll run it again sometime in the future.
Yeah, and someone's asking, can we give a short tutorial on how to use the Stripe website? That's actually something you will need to ask Stripe to do. I mean, Stripe knows their system best, and I believe there are also plenty tutorials available on Stripe. And if you can't find them, just check with the Stripe support. So if you have any more questions or need help, check the documentation, and if you can't find what you're looking for, send us a support ticket. And keep an eye open for upcoming webinars. We have a couple of webinars planned within the next weeks, and we will announce them shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.